Today, we're going to talk about something huge happening within the Indian Armed Forces. It's a massive reform called theaterization, and it's basically a new blueprint for how India plans to fight future wars. But what does that even mean? And why is it stirring up so much debate? Let's get into it. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll unpack what theaterization actually is. Then we'll look at why this change is even necessary. After that, we'll trace how the plan has been evolving, dig into the tough conversations and disagreements happening, and finally, look at what this all means for the future of India's military. So let's start with a number, 17. What in the world could that mean in a military context? Well, that's how many separate, service-specific commands the Indian Armed Forces have right now.
Yep, you heard that right. 17 different headquarters for the Army, Navy, and Air Force. So you have to ask, in an age where wars are fought on multiple fronts at once, is having this kind of fragmented structure really the best way to go?
And that question, right there, is exactly why we're talking about this new blueprint called theaterization. So what is this thing, really? In a nutshell, it's about breaking down the walls between the services. So imagine a specific area of conflict, a theater. Instead of the Army, Navy, and Air Force all kind of doing their own thing there, theaterization would put all their assets, their soldiers, chips, and planes, under one single commander for that region. One team, one fight. And this is what things look like right now. It's a system that's been around for decades, 17 separate commands, each service with its own boss, its own plans. Theaterization wants to take this structure and stitch it together into something much more unified. Okay, so the big question is, why the big shakeup now? Why change something that's been in place for so long? Well, the simple answer is that the very nature of war has changed. You know, the modern battlefield it's just a completely different animal. It's not just land, sea, and air anymore. Now you've got to worry about cyber warfare, you've got to worry about space, you have drones, super precise weapons. To make all that work together, you need an incredible level of coordination. The old, siloed way of doing things, it just can't keep up. So, how did we get here? How did this idea go from just a concept to a real, concrete plan that's being seriously debated? It's been quite a journey. The real modern push for this kicked off in 2019, when the post of Chief of Defense Staff, or CDS, was created. The very first CDS, General Bipin Rawat, made theorization his top priority. After his tragic passing, the plans were looked at again. And today, the current CDS, General Anil Chauhan, is pushing forward with a new revised approach. And that approach has definitely evolved. The first idea was to create functional commands. You know, one for air defense, one for the seas, and so on. But now, the thinking has shifted to a model that's focused on adversaries. That means creating specific integrated commands for the China border and the Pakistan border, plus a dedicated maritime command. But let's be real. You can't just propose dismantling a system that's been in place for over 70 years and expect everyone to just sign off on it. A change this big is naturally leading to some very serious debates and different points of view among the services themselves. The Indian Air Force, for instance, has been pretty vocal about being cautious. As Air Chief Marshal A.P. Singh put it, they're committed, but they insist on getting it right from the start. A big concern for the IAF is potentially splitting up its limited number of fighter jets among different commands, which they worry could weaken their overall punch. Now, on the other hand, you've got the Navy. They seem to be fully on board. The Navy Chief, Admiral D.K. Tripathi, has made it clear that they are all in on integrating with the Army and Air Force for more unified operations. And right in the middle of this whole discussion is the CDS, General Anil Chauhan. He's openly acknowledged this dissonance, as he calls it, between the services. But he's also made it crystal clear that his job is to find a solution that works best for the country as a whole. And there's a real fire under this. General Chauhan himself has flat out said that these reforms are already about a decade late. That tells you just how urgent this is considered at the very top. There's a feeling that India is playing catch-up and needs to move fast. So with all this debate, all this urgency, all these different opinions, where do we go from here? What does the path ahead actually look like for India's military? And really, it all boils down to this one massive question. The goal is what they call jointness, getting the Army, Navy, and Air Force to operate like a single, well-oiled machine. But the tricky part is, how do you do that without losing the unique skills and fighting styles that each service has spent decades perfecting?
At the end of the day, what we're watching here is so much more than just moving boxes around on an org chart. This is a fundamental debate about a new philosophy of war for India. A future force is being built, not just with new weapons and technology, but with a new revolutionary idea of what it means to be a unified military. And how that idea takes shape will really define India's strength for generations to come.